Alright, this one should be fun. It's a series of books that talks about very serious topics, which means half the internet will get mad that I'm bringing it up when insert pet issue here isn't being discussed instead.
This is the introduction song. It's not very good, but it's not too long.
So the program is yet another dystopian young adult novel that came out in the early 2010s. It is a bit different than a lot of the other ones that got popular at that time, though. Like, it's not very good. Let me be clear about that. It's not a very good book series, but it does have some interesting ideas, and it is different than I expected it to be going in. So I feel I owe it to the books to give them a little bit of visibility. And I also, as with any book I discuss, I owe it to them to be frank about what I liked and what I disliked. And maybe more people will read them and get something out of them than I did. I don't know. It's just, I feel like talking about these. And also, there is no easy segue into this, so I'll just tell you. The program is a dystopian novel which takes place in the near future. There's been an epidemic of suicides, and at some point it's mentioned that 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 teenagers were killing themselves at its peak. So they implement something called the program. And if teens seem like they're at risk for suicide, they're taken by the program to undergo some sort of medical treatment, and no one knows exactly what it entails, but everyone who comes back from the program is different. Like, their memories are gone and they act like different people. So nobody wants to get sent there. Enter the main character, Sloan. She is a normal teenage girl whose brother killed himself a while ago. She's seen her peers disappear into the program, and she wants to make sure that she doesn't go. So she learns dark secrets about the world and tries to help things, and, just from there the story unfolds. In an era where AI chatbots are making people commit suicide, this feels prescient. Because suicide is a societal problem. It's not an individual one. We just treat it like it's an individual problem because that's easier and cheaper to deal with. And suicide is a problem that is especially acute among young people. Like, if you're under the age of 35, you are much more likely to die by suicide than people over the age of 35. Now, in this video, I'm not going to speculate about why that might be, but that is a true fact, and it's something you should probably keep in mind. But if an epidemic came along that was that bad, it raises a lot of really interesting questions, like how would society react to this problem if it was too big to ignore? How would we try to fix it once it became clear that commercials saying, "You should check on your friends," aren't enough? How would we plan for the future when the future is dissolving in front of our eyes? How would surviving loved ones react to this if everyone was in the same boat? Like, those are fascinating questions, and the program kind of answers them, like, a little bit, sort of. Like, look, it's a ballsy premise to write a couple of books about, and I do respect the author for giving it a shot, even if it doesn't work out as well as it could. So I guess I'll go over the story in more detail now. But before we get going, I'm going to make a command of you. Stop using insipid euphemisms like unalived or graped or sewer slide. Fucking stop. The YouTube comments section does not have an algorithm. You just sound really stupid. Like children who overheard a swear word and kept repeating it, but you keep getting it wrong. Like, either use real words when talking about serious subjects or use a decent euphemism. Instead of saying murder, say homicide. Instead of saying someone killed himself, you say he took his own life. That way you're treating it respectfully, and you're not using any of the no-no words that you're being taught not to use, but people still know what you're talking about, and it doesn't sound fucking dumb. Or at the very least, try to be funny with it. Instead of saying suicide, just say he cashed out his chips early, or he bought himself the farm, or he took an express train to meet God. Either use your imagination or grow a pair. Ideally both. Because I am completely fucking done with that insipid manner of talking. Like, if you want to use swear words, use them or don't. And if you want to discuss controversial topics, discuss them or don't. The middle ground makes you sound like literal fucking toddlers. And I will happily delete your comments if you talk like that. If you can't handle this shit, go talk to the other babies. I am really just done with hearing that shit. So, anyways, that out of the way, spoilers ahead, and keep in mind that I'm only covering the first 2 books in the program because that's like the main series, and there are more books after that, but those are all spin-offs and prequels. Just so we're aware, I'm only talking about the first 2 books. The summary is also not going to be super in-depth because there's not a lot of plot here. Like, this is very much a book series that is focused more on ideas and themes than it is on plot. Kind of like a lot of old school science fiction novels, like A Canticle for Leibowitz, you know, like that book doesn't have a plot really. It's really just focused on these bigger ideas, but whatever. Spoilers ahead.
Why would a girl see blood and collapse? Oh, girls see more blood than boys.
So we start with Sloan, a normal teenage girl. She witnesses one of her classmates get dragged out of school and taken to the program, and she really wants to avoid getting sent there, but that's difficult because she knows they're always watching and always ready to take her. The program is actually treated more like a secret police force than medical professionals, which works really, really well. Not long ago, Sloane's older brother actually killed himself, so she is considered at a higher risk for suicide. And her parents are... To be frank, her parents are not great at dealing with this sort of thing. Like, they are authoritarian and they are controlling. Like, they're trying to protect her, but they're just making her feel like there's no one she can turn to for help. Because if she voices any sadness or difficulties at all, she's going to get sent away. Now, Sloan has a boyfriend. His name is James. It's a common name. And at one point, he does attempt suicide by cutting his wrists. And she helps him clean up and hide the evidence of this attempt so that he's not taken away. It doesn't work for very long, though. People still figure out that, oh yeah, he tried to do that, and so he's taken. And soon after, she is also taken. But right before they find her, she manages to hide a photograph of her, her brother, and James, along with a plastic ring that James gave her. Like, she hides that in her bedroom so that she can come back and get it later. So then she goes to the program, and it seems like just a regular mental institution. You know, they put patients together, they watch over them to prevent violence or self-harm, they have them take medication and do therapy, they have painting classes and stuff. Honestly, at first it doesn't seem like it's that bad. While she's at the program, Sloan makes friends with a guy named Michael Relm. I don't have a lot to say about him, but he is important to the story going forward, so I have to mention him. Now, during the program, they take 2 pills, basically. Two pills, there we go, I can use my hand. They take 2 pills to alter their memories. Like, they take a red one, which acts as a truth serum, and then they talk to a doctor about painful memories in their past, right? And the red pill doesn't just act as a truth serum, it also marks those memories, kind of like dye, I guess. And then afterwards they take a yellow pill, and all the memories that have been marked get erased. And a lot of the book, up until this point, was actually taken up by flashbacks or Sloan just describing memories, which at first I thought was weird and kind of stupid, but then she starts losing her memories, and it starts to make sense. You know, and also, these books are written in first-person present tense, which normally there's not a lot of difference between present and past tense. If an author does first-person present tense, they probably just did it because everyone else is doing it in this genre. But in this case, it actually works, because again, Sloan is losing memories over time, so having it be in the present makes us feel her loss and confusion alongside her. You know, like that. There's too many critics who only want to talk about the plot, and they forget that prose is important too. So I just wanted to take a second and point out that, yeah, okay, this author knows what she's doing there. So there's an employee at the program whose name is Roger, and he is, look, I'm not going to dance around it, he is sexually abusing the girls that are there. He actually gives Sloan a pill that will let her preserve one memory in exchange for giving him a kiss, which is gross. And he always gives girls 1 pill if they give him a kiss, but they only get more pills to preserve more memories if they have sex with him. Gross. Disgusting! So Sloan tells Relm about this, and he just immediately goes off and beats the shit out of Roger. It actually breaks his arm, which, cool. That's, yeah. He kind of deserved that. And during all of this, it comes out that Roger has been stealing medication, and normally he'd go to prison for that, but they think it would make the program look bad, so he's just fired instead. And about 2/3 of the way through the book, Sloan finally leaves the program. She leaves the medical facility and goes back home. she's still under observation, but she's at home and now she has fewer memories. She doesn't remember anything from her previous life, and she doesn't remember anything from the program. And she also goes to a new school now, so none of her old peers or friends are there. However, at her new school, she runs into James again. And they don't remember each other, but they fall in love anyways. It happens kind of quickly, actually. I guess they just are that compatible. And then she finds the old plastic ring and the photograph of her brother, and she relearns that her brother killed himself. And she's pissed off at her parents because they were hiding that from her. Like, again, she had her memories erased, so they didn't tell her she had a brother at all, let alone that he killed himself, and she's pissed off at her parents for hiding that. Rightfully so. Her parents suck. They suck in a realistic way, but they are terrible at their job. At some point, somebody says that the epidemic is spreading beyond teenagers because one single guy in his 20s killed himself. I don't think that's evidence of the epidemic spreading. I think that needs more study.
That's really dumb.
Anyways, Realm finds Sloan, and she doesn't remember or recognize him, but he seemingly still has his memories from the program, and he gives her a single orange pill, and he calls it the treatment, like with a capital T, treatment, and he tells her to keep it safe, and she's not sure what's going on, but she keeps it hidden and keeps it safe. Like I said, her and James fall in love again, and after she sees the picture of them together, they realize they were previously in a relationship, so they start dating again. But they're afraid of the program coming to take them away and erase their memories yet again, so they run away from home, and that is the end of Book 1, The Program. Then we go to Book 2, The Treatment. James and Sloan are on the run, and they immediately run into rebels. And at first, I was thinking it was dumb and weird that there were rebels in this book, because this doesn't seem like the kind of problem that requires a violent guerrilla campaign. But pretty quickly I found out that, okay, even though they call themselves rebels, they're really just kids that are on the run from the program. You know, like they all ran off individually, but occasionally they will run into each other and they'll meet up, give help and advice, and they've helped to set up a network of safe houses and stuff. But whenever they congregate in larger groups, that's only temporary and then they part ways again, which actually does make sense. Yeah, like they're not overthrowing the government here. They're just trying to avoid getting caught until they turn 18, because after they turn 18, the program can no longer take them. The rebels also have something called the Suicide Club, and while that sounds super edgy, really all it is that they dress up in all black clothes and emo makeup, and then they go out and party at a nightclub. Like, Sloan explicitly says that it's emo makeup that they're wearing. I think the emo getup is supposed to be a disguise, like, so they aren't recognized and then arrested? I don't know, but like, Sloan and James go to one party with the Suicide Club, and then they split off from the group. They drive to Colorado, and on the news, James's dad gives an interview about them. And immediately after they left the Suicide Club, it gets raided, and a bunch of others got arrested. So much for the disguises, I guess. So now there's 4 of them that are on the run together. There's Sloan, James, a girl named Dallas, and a boy named Cass. And I think the 2 of them are kind of ish dating. But they're all just on the run together. They're in a shitty situation, so they work together. And the 4 of them go to a safe house in Colorado Springs, which I'm kind of torn between being happy that we're getting a mention and really, really wanting them to leave, because this town has a weirdly high suicide rate. I'm not joking when I say that. Like, you guys should probably leave. They aren't here for very long, though. They're just at a safe house for a bit. And while they're there, Michael Realm shows up at the safe house. And again, he still has his memories from the program, which Sloan thinks is weird, but she doesn't stop and question it.
Why? Why?
Due to a couple of misunderstandings, James thinks that Sloan slept with Realm, and he storms out of the house. And look, he's not being great there, but he is under a lot of stress. And also, he's 17. You know, you expect 17-year-old boys to blow up like that sometimes. Like, if he's not hurting himself or others, just let him cool off. Like, he's acting shitty, but he's acting shitty in a realistic way. So I can't be mad at the book for putting that in there. Later, a doctor comes to the house, and he explains a bunch about the program and the mysterious pill that Sloan has. The pill is, again, called the treatment, capital T, and it restores lost memories. And later we learn that it doesn't just restore your lost memories from the program, it actually immunizes you from having your memories erased in the future. So that's how Realm still has his memories from then, because he took the treatment at some point. However, the program shut down the factory that was making these pills, and they killed the doctor who made it, and all of the data involved in the production was destroyed as well. And so this pill that Sloan has is the last one in existence. Sloan asks who this doctor guy is, and he says he's the creator of the program, Dr. Arthur Pritchard, who has never been mentioned up until this point, but his name is treated like it's a big reveal. He explains that the program is actually planning on forcing everyone into it, not just suicidal teenagers, so that they can erase their memories and maybe brainwash the entire population. And he can't tell the government, or whistleblow to anybody, because he signed an NDA. Yeah, I'm not joking. That's his excuse for why he can't tell the public about this. Like, if he breaks his gag order, the program is legally allowed to lobotomize him, which, guys, NDAs aren't enforceable if they require you to hide evidence of criminal activity. Like, at that point, you're just a whistleblower, and you actually do have some legal protections. Anyways, Dr. Pritchard does not know that Sloan has the pill, but he says he's looking for it because he wants to mass produce it before the program becomes too powerful. He also confirms that the program doesn't really help anybody. No fucking shit. Like, apparently, erasing their memories doesn't change their underlying behavior. That remains the same, so their suicidal tendencies remain. And somehow no one ever noticed this. Like, they're just going around thinking, yes, the program has a 100% success rate, and no one ever figures it out. You know, it's like all the people who screeched that if you get a vaccination against COVID-19, then you'll be dead in 6 months, but then we all lived, and then they all just kind of pretended nothing happened. Or at least most of them pretend that they just never said that. Some of them actually are dumb enough to think that hundreds of millions or billions of people have died, and we're all just covering it up. Anyways, when James stormed off, he actually took the pill with him, so Sloan can't hand it over yet. She wants to hand it over to Pritchard, but she just doesn't get the opportunity. And at this point, he's been missing for a couple of days, and they don't know what happened to him. So Pritchard leaves, and then he is immediately caught by the program. Like, damn, dude, okay, you weren't even trying. And then when Sloan is out and about one day, a reporter finds her. He's actually been tracking her for about a month. He is a journalist from the New York Times, and he has been investigating the program. He wants to expose some of the abuses and inefficiencies and such of the program and show people that, hey, this doesn't work, we shouldn't be doing it anymore. Sloan says, okay, man, I'll get back to you, but she also knows that, like, if this journalist was able to find them, then the program is going to be able to find them soon enough too. So she starts getting real worried, and anyways, they all continue moving around to avoid getting caught, and after about a week, James finally catches up with them. He still has the treatment pill with him, but he seems upset, and it turns out that his dad died. So, yeah, he stormed off because he was just having an argument with Sloan, and then he found out that his dad died, and then he went home to handle a couple of things. And honestly, it does make sense why he would need a little bit of time to himself after that. Yeah, that makes sense. So he and Sloan make up, and he acknowledges that he was being kind of a dick earlier, and then they wonder what to do with the pill. And before they can come to any sort of decision, they get caught by the program. Now, when they get caught by the program, the people who come to get them aren't cops, they're just handlers, you know, basically hospital orderlies. And Dr. Pritchard is also there. And so is Michael Realm. He's a double agent. It turns out that Cass, remember they had Cass and Dallas, those other two with them? Yeah. Anyways, it turns out Cass sold them out and agreed to give over the treatment pill for their freedom. James manages to wiggle away from the orderlies, and then he takes the pill as he's escaping, and Sloan winds up being relieved because she knows at least he's safe. So she gets taken to a hospital facility. She gets questioned and interrogated a bunch about where the pill is, but she just stays completely silent. And then Dr. Pritchard gets lobotomized. But it was done with pills instead of an ice pick, so I guess it's legal. Don't tell the Kennedy family. I'm not sure why he was lobotomized either, because, like, wasn't he on the program's side? Isn't that why he helped to capture Sloan earlier? Okay, whatever. The point is, he gets lobotomized, and Sloan is set for the same fate. And she tries to escape, but during her attempt, she actually runs into James and Realm. And it turns out they actually disguised themselves as handlers, and then they broke in, and then they break out Sloan in Dallas, because Realm was like a triple agent, I guess? I don't know exactly how this works. I feel like the author wanted to put some action in this book, but she wound up opening several plot holes in the process. So anyways, they all escape, and then they go to Evelyn Valentine, who is the scientist who made the treatment. Yeah, it turns out she actually faked her death. And she explains that there are no more pills, like the one James took was the last one in all of existence, and she destroyed the data, so she can't make any. The last one she made was originally intended for Roger, remember the rapist at the program, because he and Realm were actually in the program, and Evelyn took them on as test subjects for her memory restoration. Now, Evelyn theorizes that the suicide epidemic is just some sort of worldwide mass psychosis, but other scientists have different theories. The fact is, no one really knows what's causing it. However, she makes it very clear that the program is wrong, because it often makes people worse. Like, she mentions Roger as an example. He was always kind of an abusive psycho, but he got worse after his memories were erased. And so they decide that they're just going to give an interview with that reporter from earlier, so they call him up and they do the interview with him, and they also release some other incriminating information about the program that they got their hands on, and now the public knows that the program is both ineffective and evil. So Congress immediately shuts it down, not bloody likely, and then Roger goes on trial for his sexual crimes, and he gets sentenced to 20 years in prison, which, yeah, good, fuck that guy. All the patients at the program get released, and they start getting better, proper treatment somewhere else, and then James and Sloan are still together, and he starts telling her about their old memories together. And Sloan actually never gets her memories back, which I thought was kind of an interesting way to end it, but yeah, she just has to kind of move on while missing the first 17 years of her life. The epilogue just shows Dallas, the character from before. She's in Florida now, and she's recovering well. She works at Trader Joe's, and that's it. That's the end. Like I said, there's more books after that, but they're spin-offs, so I'm not reading them at this time.
He's saying hello to you. Ain't he cute?
Sorry, I don't speak Italian.
So I really like a genre that I'm gonna call light science fiction. You know, it's science fiction that is exactly like the real world, except for one or two futuristic technologies. And I like when they only have a little bit like that, because that really forces the story to focus on that technology and how it would affect society. You know, when folks are flying around and having battles in space and stuff, there's less focus on how the internet affects our lives. You know, with stuff like that, I guess we would call that heavy sci-fi. The only future tech in the program is the memory erasing pills. Everything else is pretty much exactly as it is in our world. That, combined with a few other things, makes this world feel a lot more real and a lot closer to home, and therefore more terrifying. You know, they mention real brands and companies like Walmart and Denny's and Trader Joe's, which does help this feel like, yes, this is really our world in the not too distant future. And while the program is obviously fucking terrible, and everyone who is a potential victim of the program seems to know that, it does make sense why society at large would embrace it so thoroughly. When people think that their kids are in danger, they tend to shut off the part of their brain that thinks. And these books say that explicitly more than once. Granted, a lot of parents never have the part of their brain that thinks turned on to begin with, but that's beside the point. When you convince people their kids are in danger, they will do pretty much everything. That's why every moral panic is wrapped up in "think of the children" rhetoric. You know, gay people exist? Think of the children. Video games are violent? Think of the children. There's swear words on TV? Think of the children. Transgender people want to control their own bodies? Think of the children. Like, all of those moral panics are completely full of shit, and all of them utilize the exact same methods to convince stupid people that kids are at risk. And every time, all it does is harm innocence, censor media that conservatives hate, and further erode our rights. People do it because it works, and honestly, I do wish these books had focused on that more. Like, it's mentioned a couple of times, but I wish it got more focus, is all I'm saying. At one point near the end of book 2, Sloan is talking to a doctor at the program, and she straight up calls her a terrible person, But then the doctor hits back that she has lost more than one of her grandchildren to suicide. Like, she's convinced that this will help, and no amount of evidence or reason will make her realize that she's wrong, especially because she would have to face the fact that she has already hurt a lot of innocent kids, and people don't want to acknowledge that they've done something bad. Now, Sloan is right. That doctor is a bad person who's doing bad things, but while she is a monster, she is a very, very human monster. And there are millions of people all over the place just like her, which is even more terrifying when you think about it. I'm really glad that we never actually learn what is causing the suicide epidemic. You know, I was worried at first that it might have some really dumb or corny explanation that would kind of ruin things, but we just never find out, and that's because that's not what the story's about. It's not about the suicides, it's about how society reacts to them. The problem is there. How do we try and fix it? How would bad actors try to take advantage of it? And realistically, there should have been a lot more people blaming stuff they hate for the epidemic. You know, blaming violent video games, blaming immigrants, blaming atheism, blaming the Chinese government, etc. You know, we could have had a really interesting book just about the blame game that people are playing, but I don't know. Just a thought, you know. I wish that was here. Sloan's family works pretty well as a microcosm of what's going on in the world, because Sloan's parents lost one child, and now they are abusing the other one, thinking that they're helping her. And that's a tragic story that you know is being repeated for a lot of other families all over the world. And the horrible panopticon that these kids are being subjected to is only adding more stress to their lives. They worry if they slip up, they'll be taken from their lives, and that discourages them from asking for help. Like, if you're going to be punished instead of assisted, you're going to keep things to yourself. A couple of you are probably thinking back to your own childhoods right now. I'm sorry. Everything about the program is stupid, but people are lying to themselves about its effectiveness, because admitting that they were wrong would require admitting that they hurt a bunch of kids in irreparable ways for no benefit. And that's a stain on their souls, so they have to ignore it. People won't admit that they threw their support behind child abusers very easily. At least until Sloan blows the lid off of everything and they are all forced to face reality. She's not really the center of a rebellion. She's not a random girl who is only important because the author said so. She's in the right place at the right time to be a whistleblower, and I think that works pretty well. You know, so many of these bad dystopian young adult novels have protagonists where even the author doesn't know why they're important or why they're special. So they wind up spewing some nonsense about how she's an inspiring leader or something. You know, Legend is pretty bad about this, and Article 5 and Matched, like, they're all really, really bad in this regard. Like, they're not the main characters because they're at the center of things. They're at the center of things because they're the main characters. You know what I mean? However, the program just straight up admits that Sloan isn't special, and her lack of strong personality traits work in the book's favor, oddly enough. Like, if she was some sort of leader or great fighter or something, it would feel kind of out of place, because again, this is light science fiction. It's very similar to our world in most ways. And one other interesting thing is that the program is just an American thing at the start, and it's not even used in every state, it's just used in most states. So we see it spread until the end, and then it gets shut down. But that's how these things work, typically. Like, they don't appear all over the earth one day. They start off smaller, and then they start growing. And when you see them grow, that means you have a chance to stop them. The point is, I do like the world building in these books. Like, it's not perfect. I wouldn't even say it's great, really, but I do like it.
What? No! Racism? Not today!
So there's a love triangle in these books that I didn't mention. It's between Sloan, James, and Realm. It's not great. Sloan and Realm connect a bit when they're at the program, and then later they become friends. It never really escalates beyond that. It just takes up too much time. I will say that her relationship with James is pretty good. You know, they're sweet, they have chemistry, and they don't mistreat each other. Like, they act kind of dumb sometimes, but they act kind of dumb in a way that makes sense. Like at that part where James thinks Sloan cheated on him, and she didn't cheat on him, and it's kind of dumb for him to think that, but he's on the run, he's away from his family and friends, he recently had his memories erased, like, he's stressed the fuck out. And he's 17. 17-year-old boys are kind of dumb and kind of bad at dealing with stress. I can say that, I used to be one. So he storms off, and then again he learns his dad died, and so he goes home for a bit. Like, sometimes couples have arguments that are settled easily, the two of them just need to cool off a bit. Like, I know that saying, okay, the love interest in this book is not abusive, I know that's a very, very low bar, but many young adult novels fail to clear that bar, and the program does. I also like how all of the sexual stuff is handled here, because it's a normal part of life and relationships, you know, and that's how the books treat it. It's not a gigantic, life-changing event. People just are in relationships, they're attracted to each other, and so they have sex sometimes. That's how it works. And I also like that everyone is smart about it, too. Like, there's a scene in the second book where Sloan wants to have sex, but James realizes that he forgot their condoms somewhere else, so now they can't, and so she's annoyed with him, which is both a funny scene and it shows that everyone is being responsible. Like, you can have a healthy sex life without being stupid about it. And compared to most book talk shit I've read in the past few years, that is nice to see. I also enjoyed the friendships that some of these characters had. Like, Sloan and some of the rebel kids have a connection and they get along and they help each other out for a bit. Like, there's a little bit of tension between her and Dallas and Cass, but it really doesn't take up that much time, which is why I didn't even mention it in the summary. Like, they're all stuck on the same sinking ship and they're looking for a way to safety. Cass does betray them, and actually I don't even remember what happens to Cass. Like, he might have just gotten taken into the program and then the book never mentions him again. I'm not sure. But his desperation is understandable. Like, he doesn't rat them out for selfish reasons. He just rats them out for stupid reasons. The point is, all of the rebels are just a bunch of kids, and they act like a bunch of kids, but in a good way. You know, it's realistic for them to act that way, and they're still kind-hearted, and they try to help each other when they can. And like I said, the kids have an emo club, which they just call the Suicide Club, but all they do is party. And I just want to take a second to mention that at one point there's a newscast about suicide clubs where they say, quote, drugs, alcohol, and depression run rampant. Which is both a very funny line and a very realistic way that the news and the media would probably look at this sort of...
For me, I'm right! Oh no! Which one do I shoot?
Wait, where did he get a gun from? I don't know.
I think I made these books sound better than they really are. Like, overall, I would say that at best, they're fine. Like, they're passable at best. There are some great ideas in here, but I don't think any of them are explored properly. Most of the interesting stuff is coming from me reading between the lines. I barely mentioned the love triangle because I ignored it in the books, but it does take up a fair amount of time and it sucks. And Sloan is still dull and she doesn't have much of an arc, which mostly works for this story because she's a normal girl, but you can have a character be a normal person and still have a personality. There's not a lot of action in here either, physical or otherwise. You know, Sloan being arrested twice and then escaping at the end of book 2, that's about it as far as action goes. Beyond that, the books are mostly just conversations, flashbacks, and exposition. The prose itself isn't great. I don't think it's notably bad, but like it's just not great. However, like I said earlier, I do like the way that first-person present tense was utilized. It let the audience feel Sloane's confusion when her memories were erased. Other than that, it is pretty bland. You know, like the world and the events feel kind of lifeless. And so on and so forth. Like, there's other problems here that I could go into. So I don't think I recommend that you read the program. And I also don't have much of a conclusion for this video. All I can say is that the program is interesting. I don't think it's good, but I think it's much more interesting than the majority of young adult dystopias I've read. And if nothing else, it does do its own thing, and I respect that. So that's all. Like, if they appeal to you, check them out, and maybe check out the prequels and spin-offs and stuff, and maybe I'll read those if there's demand for it. I don't know. I'm not going to promise anything right now, but that's all. Have a lovely day. Goodbye. Hello to everyone, especially hello to the people who watched the entire video up until this point. You're awesome. These names you see on screen here, these are my patrons. I want to give a special shout out to my $10 and up patrons, 3 Cat Day, Arthur D. Gonzalez Martin, Brother Santodes, Carolina Clay, Chaotic Entity 1, Chris Goldap, Lexi DeLorme, Lord Tiebreaker, Michael and Katie Hake, Mr. A5013, Proscriptions of Dwojang, PsychXS, Toa Michael, Vey Victus, and Wesley. I could not do this without you guys. You being here really does mean the world to me. If you want to get your name on here, consider donating to my Patreon. It starts at just $1 a month. You can also become a YouTube channel member, or check out my merchandise store, or go over on Cameo and buy a shout out from me. Or if you don't feel like doing any of that, you can always just rate the video and comment on it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Did you know I have a second channel which I haven't uploaded to in a while? Because I have one of those too. Anyways, yeah, see ya. Goodbye. There's no way to say goodbye here that doesn't sound awkward, but goodbye.